Saint Symmachus, was born on the Mediterranean island of Sardinia. He was baptized in Rome, where he became Archdeacon of the Roman Church under Pope Anastasius II. His charity was likewise expended upon ransoming captives, founding 3 hospices for the needy, and relieving the victims of barbarian raids in northern Italy. It was Pope Symmachus who first expanded the use of the Gloria at Mass beyond its original utilization as a hymn heard only once a year at the Christmas midnight Mass.
Saint Apollinaris, Bishop of Ravenna and Martyr, is a Syrian saint. As the first bishop of Ravenna, he faced nearly constant persecution. He and his flock were exiled from Ravenna during the persecutions of Emperor Vespasian. On his way out of the city he was identified, arrested as being the leader, tortured and martyred. He was made Bishop of Ravenna by Saint Peter himself. He converted many to the faith of Christ, for which reason he was seized by the priests of the idols and severely beaten. At his prayer, a nobleman named Boniface, who had long been dumb, recovered the power of speech, and his daughter was delivered from an unclean spirit. On this account a fresh sedition was raised against Apollinaris.
Saint Aurelius, Bishop of Carthage, was born in Italy or Gaul, and retired to Italy in order to give himself up more completely to the service of God. He was the intimate friend of Saint Augustine, to whom he wrote immediately after his election to demand his prayers and counsel. With Saint Augustine's support, he introduced the feast day of Cyprian, September 19/14. At the African Synod in 401, he vigorously supported the importance of Sunday and the feasts of the martyrs. As primate, Aurelius presided over the All-African Councils and the Conference of 411. He inaugurated the long series of African synods beginning. Saint Elijah, prophet, appears in scriptures, the books of the kings, as a man of God who lived always in God's presence and fought zealously for the worship of the one true God. On Mount Carmel Elijah defended God's law in the solemn contest against the prophets of the false god Baal, and afterwards was given on Mount Horeb an intimate experience of the living God in the sound of sheer silence. As a man of both prayer and service, he inspires Carmelites in their contemplative vocation. As a passionate defender of the truth, he gives particular inspiration to the Carmelites' work for justice, peace, and the integrity of creation. The first Carmelite hermits gathered by the well of Elijah on Mount Carmel, and regarded themselves as the sons of the prophet. Saint Lawrence of Brindisi, Capuchin and doctor of the Church, joined the Capuchin Friars Minor, a strict offshoot of the Franciscans, at Verona, Italy, in 1575, taking the name Lorenzo, Lawrence. Lawrence is generally represented contemplating the crucifix and holding the book of his sermons, or holding on to the cross as in battle, or celebrating Holy Mass, the child Jesus appearing before him. He devoted himself entirely to the salvation of souls. He did not spare labors, vigils, nor life itself, which was in danger more than once, so that he could win all to Christ. He entered the courts of princes, as well as gatherings of Jews and heretics, and he traversed almost all Europe showing the people the way of eternal salvation. Saint Prixsts, martyr in the church he founded on the Esquilino, was a Roman virgin and sister of the Virgin Pudentiana. When the Emperor Marcus Antoninus persecuted the Christians, she devoted both her time and her wealth to consoling them, and doing them every charitable service in her power. Some she concealed in her house, others she encouraged to firmness of faith. She buried the dead, and saw that those who were imprisoned wanted for nothing. But at length, being unable to bear the grief caused by such a wholesale butchery of the Christians, she prayed God, that if it were expedient for her to die he would take her away from so much evil. Her prayer was heard, and on the 12th of the calends of August, she was called to heaven, to receive the reward of her charity. Saint Ishiel, prophet of hope, the faith of Ezechiel in the ultimate establishment of a new covenant between God and the people of Israel has had profound influence on the post-exilic reconstruction and reorganization of Judaism. Ezekiel's religious call came in July 592 when he had a vision of the throne chariot of God, During this vision the holy prophet fell down upon the ground out of fear, but the voice of God commanded him to get up. He was told that the Lord was sending him to preach to the nation of Israel. The holy prophet Ezechiel received from the Lord the gift of wonder-working. He, like the prophet Moses, divided the waters of the river Charbel, and the Hebrews crossed to the opposite shore, escaping the pursuing Chaldeans. Prophet Ezechiel teaches that spiritual life after sin is possible only for those who repent of their foolishness. Saint Mary Magdalene Postel, Vigin, foundress of Poor Daughters of Mercy, is the daughter of a rope manufacturer whose real name is Julie-25th Catherine Postel. After her elementary education, she received further training from the Benedictine nuns at Valognes. There she decided to devote her entire life to the service of God and her neighbor, and privately took the vow of chastity. She played a heroic part in helping the priests who were in hiding or in prison and in strengthening the faith of the loyal Catholics of Machloof. She was authorized to keep the Blessed Sacrament in her house, and when conditions grew worse to carry the Blessed Sacrament on her person and even to administer Holy Viaticum to the dying in cases of emergency. Saint Bridget, religious patron of Europe, had a profound influence on the affairs of Europe. Married at 13, she had 8 children. After her husband died, she became a nun and founded the Breton order. She exercised a wide apostolate among rich and poor, sheltering the homeless and sinners. She worked untiringly for the end of the Avignon papacy and for the Pope to return to Rome. She also made a pilgrimage with her daughter and son to the Holy Land. She was named Co-Patroness of Europe by Pope John Paul II in 1999. Saint Christine, Virgin and Martyr, was the daughter of a rich and powerful magistrate named Urban. Her father, who was deep in the practices of paganism, had a number of golden idols. His young daughter broke them, then distributed the pieces among the poor. Infuriated by this act, Urban became the persecutor of his own daughter. He had her whipped with rods and thrown into a dungeon. Christina remained unshaken in her faith. Her tormentor brought her forth to have her body torn by iron hooks, then fastened to a rack beneath which a fire was kindled. But God watched over his servant and turned the flames back toward the onlookers, several of whom perished. The torments to which this young girl was subjected would seem as difficult to devise as to imagine, but God was beside her at all times.
Saint Jarbal Makhlouf, priest, was born in 1828 at Bicacafra, Lebanon. His peasant family lived a strong faith, were attentive to the divine liturgy, and had a great devotion to the Mother of God. At the age of 23, Charbel left his closely knit family to enter the Lebanese Maronite monastery. Charbel had a reputation for his austerity, penances, obedience, and chastity. At times, Charbel was gifted with levitations during prayer, and he had great devotion to the Most Blessed Sacrament. Through prayer and penance he offered himself as a sacrifice so that the world would return to God. It is in this light that one sees the importance of the following Eucharistic prayer in his life. Father of truth, behold your Son is sacrifice pleasing to you, accept this offering of him who died for me. Saint Christopher, Martyr, was a fierce man who dedicated his life to seeking out the most powerful prince to serve. At first, he believed this was the devil, a being feared by men, but he eventually came to believe that Christ was the greatest of all princes. After being instructed in the Christian faith by a hermit, he was baptized and given the name Christophorus. According to the legend, Christopher went on to bring many to Christ. He was eventually martyred during the reign of the Emperor Decius. This saint is generally represented as of a gigantic stature, with a budding staff in his hand, carrying Christ, in the form of a lovely child, across a river.
Saint James the Greater, Apostle, also called James, son of Zebedee, or James the Greater. He is one of the 12 apostles. He is actually thought to be the cousin of Jesus himself, by the sister of the Virgin Mary, and the brother of Saint Jude Thaddeus. He followed Jesus as one of his disciples until Jesus was crucified by the Romans. Following Christ's ascension, James spread the gospel across Israel and the Roman kingdom as well. He traveled and spread the word for nearly 40 years in Spain. It is said that one day, as he prayed, the Blessed Virgin Mary appeared to him and asked him to build her a church, which he did. When he returned to Judea, he was beheaded by King Herod Agrippa.
We love it that you have spent your time listening to this video until the end. Would you like to share your experience of God's love? Come and join us at www.mustardseedscommunity.com/join-us. Till then, may God's blessing always be with you.